Good afternoon. You may be seated. Welcome to the Circuit Court for Chesapeake County. It is February the 18th at 5 o'clock. Thank you, clerk, for calling the case. My name is Joe Getty. I'm a senior judge with the Maryland Supreme Court. Seated to my right is Judge Brian DiLeonardo of the Circuit Court for Carroll County. Seated to my left is Judge Richard Titus of the Circuit Court for Carroll County. In this courtroom, I'll rely on the bailiff and clerk to keep time standards and notify each side of their timing commitments. I'd like the attorneys to enter their appearance in court so that I can make sure I have your name straight.
Good evening, Your Honor. My name is Samantha Thompson, and I'm here with my co-counsels Abby Morshing and Jake Marion. The state has a few preliminary matters that we would wish to address.
Okay, let me enter the appearance on the other side first.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Gray with my co-counsel Kyla Dawson and Mark Warnock.
Dawson and
Warnock.
Okay. Then are there any preliminary matters?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution would like to make a motion to sequester witnesses.
The witnesses will be constructively sequestered.
We would also like to make a motion to move freely about the court space.
Since we're under time constraints, both sides should feel free to move around the court space without requesting permission from the court.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We also have some preliminary matters. We ask permission to approach witnesses without asking each time. And then we also just have a signed copy of the stipulations that each side signed, if you would like it.
Okay. We have the stipulations here. If you'd like to submit it to the clerk over there for our purposes this evening.
And that's all.
Very good. I generally like when you request permission to approach a witness, but because of the time constraints, you've been granted permission to move freely among the well. That will include publishing exhibits. However, you still need to lay a good foundation on your exhibits. With that, we can begin with opening statements.
Good evening, Your Honor and members of the jury. May it please the court. Boiled alive, tarred, and feathered. That is what became of high school student Daniel Benoit. He was an average high school student who joined interesting clubs and hung out with his friends. He joined a student body election for fun and to boost his college applications. He ran with his friends and had a serious passion for his school and his peers. But he was running against Andrea Luna. And while it started as just fun and interesting competition, it turned into something he wished he had never been a part of. All of this is because of the harassment and bullying done by Miss Andrea Luna. Miss Luna targeted only Mr. Benoit, not the rest of his slate. She put up posters attacking Mr. Benoit alone. She was fully aware of and did not attempt to prevent anybody else posting things online about Mr. Benoit. His mental health suffered as a result, and he dealt with serious panic attacks, anxiety, stress, and missed school. He missed school, confidence, his friends, and lost his motivation. And these posts only grew more and more inflammatory each time. Tonight, the evidence will prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Ms. Luna did, with intent, maliciously engage in electronic conduct, to wit, posting memes on Instagram that had the effect of intimidating and harassing a minor, Mr. Benoit, and causing serious emotional distress to said minor in violation of Criminal Law Article Section 3805B5 of the Annotated Code of Maryland against the peace, government, and dignity of the state. Tonight, the state will present 3 witnesses. Mr. Daniel Benoit, our victim who suffered extreme emotional distress because of the posts and posters brought upon by Miss Dana Luna, Roberta Lopez, who helped Miss Luna in her campaign and her posts, and Cameron Ali, who is our expert witness and a criminal officer who's an expert in cyberbullying and the cyberspace. Thank you.
The defense may present its opening statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury. Tonight, the defendant stands here accused of awful things that couldn't be further from the truth. Specifically, maliciously harassing Daniel Benoit through social media with the intent to cause serious emotional damage. But anyone that knows Miss Dana knows that this could not be further from the truth. And by the end of this trial, you will come to that same conclusion. The prosecution is attempting to convince you all that Miss Dana was responsible for the negative events that occurred to Mr. Benoit. But remember, just because Miss Dana's name was on the flyers, it doesn't mean that she was the one making them. Dana was a senior at Nanticoke High School. She was a straight-A student with a 4.0 and a strong love and dedication towards her academics, especially her school science program. So when she was in class and had to deal with dangerously dull science equipment and put her own safety and health at risk, she knew something had to change. She knew she had to be the change. So she decided to run for student body president. Dana conducted the average campaigning process. She spread the word of a positive campaign. There was only ever a problem when other people began to get involved. For example, Dana's sister, Andrea Luna, was the first to help out. She made flyers for her campaign. Now, these flyers were harmless, factual posters that represented what Miss Dana wanted to see around school. These posters were called the Dana Wonders posters. But even though her name was on it, she was not the one to make them. After these posters were made, witness to the state, Miss Roberta, also began making posters. Now, these posters had heavy negative connotations to them against Miss Dana's wishes to keep the campaign neutral. In fact, Miss Dana asked on multiple separate occasions for the campaign not to be negative and not to be taken too far. Dana asked these things solely because she had no intention, and certainly not a malicious one, to harass or cyber abuse Mr. Benoit. While the posts and advertisements admittedly do have a negative connotation, they can easily be compared to your average Saturday morning cartoons. Nothing more and nothing harmful. Your Honor, the state would have you believe that the defendant is guilty, but the evidence provided today will show that the defendant did not harass or cyber abuse Mr. Benoit, nor did he have the intent to. To show this, the following three witnesses will be called. First, the defendant herself, Dana Luna, followed by expert witness Simon Marshall, and lastly, Andrea Luna. First, the defendant, Dana Luna, will be called to the stand, and she will testify in her lack of involvement in Miss Roberta Lopez's campaigning strategies. She'll also testify to her genuine intent to never harm or put down Mr. Benoit, alongside the fact that she had no involvement in physically making the post other than asking that they aren't mean to the other candidates. And next, the defense will call Mr. Simon Marshall to the stand, an expert witness who's a government teacher at Nanticoke High School and has extensive experience in civil rights law, particularly the First Amendment. He will testify to the fact that any and all of Dana's actions, even though she didn't work alone, are protected under the First Amendment as political speech that had a lawful purpose and was part of a specific campaigning strategy, which does not rise to the level of unlawful harassment under the First Amendment. And lastly, the defendant's sister will be called to the stand to testify of her involvement and help in the campaign in making the Dana Wonders posters, alongside the fact that she was not involved in making the Truth or Danielle posts on that account. Today, you will learn about Dana Luna and her dreams of being class president. You will hear how she received help from acquaintances who took this situation way too far, and you'll hear how she was not involved and didn't want to be involved, but was dragged along because her name was attached to the campaign. The state is required to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Miss Luna was responsible for and had the intent of harassing or cyber abusing Mr. Benoit. And while they can prove that Miss Roberta and others were responsible for doing so, the state will not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Miss Dana Luna was responsible for this. And because of this, we ask that you have a final verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Prosecution may call its first witness.
The state would like to call Mr. Daniel Benoit to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Not bad. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
Good evening, Mr. Benoit. Can you introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Daniel Benoit. I'm 17 years old and I'm a senior at Nanticoke High School,
Okay. What county is that high school in?
Chesapeake County.
And what are your grades like?
I've got a 2.9 GPA, so, not as well as they could be.
Are you in any extracurriculars at school?
I am. I used to be part of the modeling club, but that was taken down for a little joke. And I am still part of the moving watching club. And back in September, I decided to run for student body council.
Okay. Why did you decide to run in this election?
Well, I decided to run in this election because you couldn't tell my grades aren't great. So I had to do something to get colleges to like me, right? Because they wouldn't really take me otherwise. So I figured, hey, being, student president, right, that'd be a pretty good way to get colleges to look at me a bit better.
Okay. Who else was running in this election?
Well, other than just myself, I was running in a slate with some of my best friends. So that was really cool. But eventually, Dana Luna decided to run against me as president.
Okay. Is this defendant in the courtroom?
Yes, she is. Blonde hair, suit coat.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Benoit has correctly identified the defendant. And did you have any interaction with Miss Luna at all?
Yes, a bit after Dana decided to sign up to run, I went over and I introduced myself, or I tried to, at least.
And how did they respond?
Well, I just tried to go up and say hi, and what I got back was a bunch of talk about the platforms and science department, and I don't really know much about politics, to be honest. So I kind of all just flew over my head. But I did hear them say something about removing funding from the football team, which is crazy because we're the winningest football team Nanticoke's ever had.
Okay. Did you, if at all, advertise your campaign for president?
Yeah, I put up a little poster right after I started running, kind of advertising the prom sort of thing that we wanted to put on, like a Roaring Twenties theme. It was pretty fun, I thought. And then eventually I ended up putting up another poster about the science program, about keeping funding for that.
How did Dana Luna respond?
Well, to my first poster, the only thing that happened was after Dana started to run, there was a little poster put up kind of promoting the science program, nothing bad or anything. But eventually there was a set of posters put up around the school that tried to smear my name.
Okay. What I am showing you has been pre-marked as exhibits 5A through 5C. Can you tell me what these are?
Well, these are a few of the posters that got put up by Dana. They all featured text on the top that says Dana Wonders, and then some sort of, stereotype relating to New England.
And who made these?
They were put up by Dana Luna.
Okay. And when were they put up?
They were put up around September 19th.
At this time, I would like to admit exhibits 5A through C as evidence.
No objection.
They're admitted.
Can you describe the way that these posters affected you?
Well, these posters kind of implied that I was biased against, Maryland, against our community, and like part of the New England culture, which is absurd because I lived there for like less than 2 years when I was first born. But Maryland's really important to our school, so trying to get my name associated with outsiders, quote unquote, that would be really bad for my campaign.
What else may have impacted your campaign?
Well, other than just these posters, there was an Instagram account that got put up called Truther Danielle, and they were putting out posts that were automatically, I assume it was by a robot or something, they automatically got reposted onto the school's main unofficial student
Objection,
page.
speculation.
Your Honor, the defendant is simply telling the court what he believed happened as a result of these posts.
He stated that that's what he assumed, not what either way.
Maybe restate the question.
How did these posts impact your campaign?
These posts, they were seen by the not entire, but they were seen by a large portion of the student body, kind of influencing their ideas. And the posters only kind of made them question where I lied with my association. But the posts on Instagram just kind of destroyed my life.
What I'm showing you has been pre-marked as Exhibit 7E. Can you explain to the court what this is?
This is one of the posts that Truther Danielle made. It's a little AI image of a lobster sitting alone in a cafeteria with a bunch of bears surrounding it. And on top it says, "Eating with Daniel is social suicide." And on the bottom it says #TrutherDaniel. And on the bottom of the image there's a lot of the Instagram accounts and responses.
And where did this come from?
This was posted by the Truther Daniel account and reposted on the Nanticoke High Maryland Spirit page.
And when was it posted?
It was posted September 30th.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of the post?
It is.
At this time, I would request permission to admit this into evidence.
Defense? Okay, it's admitted.
So you mentioned running with your friends in a slate. Did any other members of your slate receive posts like this, slandering their name?
No, none of my campaign other than me, myself, got attacked by these posts.
So they only targeted you?
They only targeted me.
And what was the impact of these posts and posters on you personally?
Well, the student body didn't really, appreciate my the whole New England idea. So after these posts started gaining traction, the comments just got worse and worse, more and more aggressive, kind of focused at me. And that didn't just, a lot of people say, "Oh, turn off your phone," right? And because even past getting threats against my safety on my phone about canceling a crab bake, which I never mentioned, even if I turned that off, nothing changed. I went.
Objection, narration.
Your Honor, I believe that this question requires narration.
Overruled.
I would go to school, and the people would just look and stare. They would turn to their friends and laugh after staring at me for a while. Some people would yell these cruel things in the hallways, calling me names, being rude to me. And the post, it has like a little lobster sitting alone, right? Well, funny for a little bit for some people, I'm sure, but it was a reality. After these things started being posted, I had nobody. All of my friends left me, and I was I was alone. That was it. I was socially tarred and feathered.
And how did this toll impact your mental health and the rest of your life?
Well, when I go to the school, my heart it races when I look at those hallways because of how many times I've been laughed at and yelled at over these little Instagram posts. I've gotten panic attacks. I had to miss a day of school because I couldn't bear it. I couldn't take it. And I mean the threats on my own safety, they were I was terrified. I was paranoid about every little thing. Every time I'd go out, I was afraid. Obviously, my best friends, that I was running with, they ditched me. They left. Didn't have them anymore. They wouldn't associate with me after the Truth or Danielle posts. And if that doesn't tell you, I don't know how to tell it otherwise.
Did you get therapy or any other assistance with your mental health?
No, I didn't. I wasn't really ready to speak out about it for a really long time. I couldn't handle it.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Benoit. Mr. Benoit, your opponent preached for better STEM funding, correct?
Better. They did talk about diverting funds to get more for the science program, yes.
And isn't it true that through Pick AI, you created a picture of a bear on a football field with crushed beakers around them?
It was broken glass, but I mean, yeah, I used an AI software to make a little cartoon image.
So yes.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. You testified to being sent threats when you were running for president, correct?
I did. I received a text on my phone threatening just generally threatening me if I canceled an event I never mentioned.
You don't have any proof of this threat, though, do you?
Why would I want to keep that on my phone?
And you don't have any proof of this because you chose to delete it?
Yeah. Do you want to stare at a death threat every day? Well, death threat, that's strong. But threat in general, do you want to look at that when you turn on your phone? Yeah, it's a yes.
So you have absolutely nothing here, nothing related to these alleged threats to show the jury today?
No, I don't.
Moving on.
Other than the social media posts.
Of the threats that were texted to you?
No, the threats talking about how eating with me is social.
So there's no proof of these threats that were texted to you?
Not the threats, no.
Okay, moving on. There was a day during the campaign that you talked about that you chose to stay home from school, correct?
I didn't choose to. My parents told me to.
Right, because there was so much drama at school.
Well, just because they were concerned about me.
Because of all the drama going on at school, correct?
I mean, it might have factored into their decision, for all I know.
This same day, isn't it true that you had a test that you admitted that you were illy prepared for, correct?
Yeah, but again, I will say it was not my decision to stay home from school.
But you did.
I took it anyway.
Moving on. You also expressed that you felt that your opponent's campaign was offensive, right?
I mean, I don't know how else to consider it.
So yes?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true, though, at the beginning of the year, the fashion club that you ran was shut down for making fun of homeless people in their attire?
It was based off of a joke
Objection. Relevance.
You want to respond to the objection?
Yes, Your Honor. This club that he was running, well, first off, he is claiming that he has been offended by this other candidate, and I just wanted to highlight his past experience for context.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. So isn't it true at the beginning of the year, your fashion club that you run, it was shut down for making fun of homeless people and their attire?
So the reason that it got shut down was because one of our campaigns was based off of a joke from a pretty famous movie. If you've ever seen Zoolander, the derelict campaign at the end of the movie. I mean, I didn't intend to
Objection,
offend anybody.
unresponsive.
I think the witness is trying to explain in the best way he can in response to your question.
I apologize. Keep going.
We never had any intentions to offend anybody. We just thought the joke was funny. So we did it. And if I did offend, I don't know anybody that's harmless personally, but I didn't have any intent, or I didn't mean to offend them with the movie joke.
But it is true that your fashion club was shut down because you were making fun of homeless people and their attire.
I never really thought about it that way.
Is it true your fashion club was shut down? Yes or no?
It did get shut down, yeah.
Okay, moving on. And it was also that same fashion club. It was deemed offensive and inappropriate by your admin, correct?
By the administration, yeah.
Okay. And during this incident, you preached your First Amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. You claimed that you were under emotional distress because of this whole campaign, correct?
Yeah.
But you refused therapy?
I wasn't ready for it.
So you did refuse
I
therapy?
did refuse it.
Okay. And after the initial flyer handout, isn't it true that you never reached out to Miss Dana in person to talk about the campaign?
After which flyers are you referencing?
All of them. Like after all the flyers went up around school, like the Dana Wonders posters.
Oh, just the Dana one? No, I didn't.
Okay. And you never tried to text her about it?
I don't have Dana's phone number.
So you didn't?
We weren't really friends before, so no.
And you never tried to reach out through social media either?
Again, we're not friends. I was never really friends with Dana to begin with.
So no?
No.
And you also, so with all of this, you never asked her to stop, correct?
No.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
So you mentioned that you didn't reach out to Dana. Why is that?
Well, let's say we're talking about like a bully. People don't speak up against their bullies, because if you say, "Hey, stop that," they're not going to stop it. Let's be realistic here. So if I'm getting, targeted with a giant attack on my personality, I'm scared. I don't have that kind of confidence to just, hey, stop doing it. After all of that, I couldn't bring myself to do anything.
And do you think that the issues with your mental health that you were already having may have affected this?
That I was already having, due to the posts?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It did have an impact on my willingness to reach out, let's say.
No further questions.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
The witness may step down. Does the state have any additional witnesses?
The state would like to call Roberta Lopez to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
Good evening, Ms. Lopez. Could you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Roberta Lopez. I'm 18 years old and I'm a senior at Nanticoke High School.
What extracurricular activities are you involved in at Nanticoke?
I'm involved in both the chess and Fortnite clubs.
Are you involved in the student council?
I wasn't involved in the club directly, but I did help Andrea Luna with their campaign over this past year.
Did you know Dana Luna before the election?
I wasn't extremely close with them, but I could identify them around the school. But I really did approach them initially to help with their campaign because I was also, like them, extremely passionate about, having more funds for the science department.
And what role did you have on Dana Luna's campaign staff?
I ran the Instagram at Truth or Daniel account and essentially became their social media coordinator.
Who asked you to make these posts?
Andrea Luna asked me to create these posts.
Did you ever make any decisions regarding Dana's campaign without their consent?
No, everything was done under Dana's campaign and under most general campaign election rules. The entire campaign is under their decisions, basically.
And what consequences are you facing as a result of your involvement in Dana Luna's campaign?
I'm currently facing a probation before judgment, but I could have faced up to 3 years in jail.
Thank you. Was Dana Luna aware of the content of the Truth or Danielle Instagram account?
They definitely were. We talked about the account and its contents multiple times, and they even stated that they had seen some of the first initial posts.
Objection, hearsay.
The witness can be cross-examined on this statement, as she is appearing in court today. She testified that she has had multiple conversations with Dana Luna about the content, so I think it would be reasonable to assume that she would know of this content.
And what exception to hearsay is that?
She can be cross-testified on this, examined.
Overruled.
How often did you post on the Truth or Danielle account?
I posted every day between September 26th and October 5th for a total of 10 posts.
And did these posts gain any traction among the school community?
I would definitely say so. The posts averaged to about 250 likes each, with one post even gaining 425 likes. So I would definitely say that a larger community of our school definitely saw these posts.
I'm approaching the opposing counsel with what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 7J. I'm approaching the witness with the same. Could you please describe what this is for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
This is the post that I made on October 5th. It was the post that I made on the @Truth or Danielle account, but it was reposted on the Nanticoke High MD Spirit page.
So you confirmed that you made this post?
I did create this post.
Has this photo been altered or changed in any way?
No,
So you affirm that this is a fair and accurate copy of your post on the Truth or Danielle Instagram account?
it is.
At this point, Your Honor, the prosecution would like to admit Exhibit 7J into evidence.
7J,
Yes, Your Honor.
No objection.
it is admitted.
Would you be able to read some of the comments on this post, please?
Of course. The first comment says, Danielle needs to realize that their days are numbered. No one wants to hear their nonsense anymore. Just vanish already. And another one says, wouldn't it be nice if Danielle just disappeared? We would all be better off without their toxic presence.
Did a significant portion of the school community see these posts, or were they only seen by a smaller portion of Nanticoke?
I would definitely say a large portion of the school community saw these posts. As you can see, 425 people liked this post, and I'm sure that many more at least had it come up on their feed without them interacting with it.
And were you aware of the effects of your social media posts?
I was. I regularly read and saw the school's community's reactions to these posts, so I was pretty aware of how this was negatively affecting our school community.
And did this negative effects, these aggressive attitudes, did they transfer to any in-person interactions at Nanticoke?
I would definitely say so. I saw Daniel around the school pretty frequently, and I was definitely aware of the bullying that he was facing from other students.
In your affidavit, you cite a conversation you had with Dana Luna in front of your locker at school. Did Dana ever mention toning down the language that you were using on your social media posts?
No, they never explicitly told me to.
Objection, hearsay.
Do you want to respond?
Again, the witness is in court today and can be cross-examined on her testimony.
Do you have an exception to the hearsay rule?
I would say that she can be cross-examined. This is in a court of law, and this conversation did happen. She is testifying here that it did happen. This is her own word, is what she is saying.
Overruled.
So Dana never told me to explicitly tone down the language that I was using on the social media post, and I remember them telling me a quote along the lines of, when I talked about intensifying the language, I remember them telling me something like, go ahead, but don't make it too obvious that it's connected to me specifically.
And are you aware that Dana Luna actually denied that this conversation happened in their affidavit?
I was not.
Right. Did Dana indicate to you in this conversation that they wanted to ensure that the posts of the Truth or Danielle account couldn't be traced back to them or their public image?
Objection, leading.
I was simply asking if Dana indicated to her in this conversation.
Go ahead and restate your question. Overruled.
In this conversation, did Dana ask or tell you that they wanted to ensure that this content could not be connected to them?
Yes, what they responded to me with definitely and stated that they were aware of the effects of the posts, but did not want to be connected to the consequences.
Okay. At this time, let the record reflect, I'm approaching opposing counsel with what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 9B. Yes, Jen, just 9B. I'm approaching the witness with the same. Could you please tell what this is to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
This is a screenshot of the text conversation I had with Andrea Luna on September 25th.
And can you confirm that this is a fair and accurate copy of your text message exchange with Andrea Luna?
It is.
And has this photo been altered or changed in any way?
No.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, the prosecution would like to admit Exhibit 9B into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
It is admitted.
What did you and Dana Luna discuss in this text message conversation?
We were definitely discussing the
Objection, Your Honor. Exhibit 9A is not in evidence.
If you just fold the
Yes, Your Honor.
sheet over. Does that satisfy defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
What did you and Dana Luna discuss in this text message conversation?
we were talking about the contents of the @Truth or Daniel account and specifically what direction they wanted the account to go in concerns to its content.
And you were texting back and forth pretty regularly throughout this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly, Dana Luna stopped responding?
Yes, after my message about intensifying the language.
Okay. Was Dana aware of the social distress and harassment that Daniel was receiving?
I would probably say so. The bullying that Daniel received in the
Objection,
school.
speculation.
I asked the witness if, based on her previous conversations and text message exchanges that she has had with Dana, if Dana was aware of the content of these posts and their effect on Daniel. And as she will testify, the effects and the negative adverse implications they had were very widespread.
Overruled.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Was Dana aware of the social distress and harassment that Daniel Benoit was receiving at school?
I would definitely say so. The bullying that Daniel received was really widespread, and I mean, even though I wasn't really that friendly with him, I was aware of it. So I would definitely say so.
And even though this was a result of Dana Luna's campaign messaging, she never mentioned anything about the bullying, harassment, or intimidation.
No.
So, just to clarify, ultimately, did Dana Luna ever tell you to stop posting on the Truth Daniel account, despite the fact that it was for her campaign, or to use euphemisms instead of harsher language?
No, they never
Objection, compound.
I'll sustain that objection if you
Yes,
want to rephrase.
Did Dana Luna ever tell you to use euphemisms instead of harsher language?
No, they never explicitly told me to tone down my language.
And ultimately, did Dana Luna ever tell you to stop posting on the Truth Daniel account?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Ms. Lopez. There are no more questions from the state at this time.
Before the campaign, you were upset that your school could not afford a programming class, correct?
I was specifically talking about the computer science class that I wanted to have, but we could not afford.
And this funding issue was why you decided to help Miss Luna with her campaign, correct?
It is.
And you were charged with conspiracy with Miss Luna, correct?
I was.
And you agreed to a plea agreement, correct?
I have, and I'm very grateful for it.
And you achieved this agreement as long as you cooperate with the state's investigation?
I'm simply testifying on what it was. I'm not conspiring with the state now.
But you do achieve this agreement as long as you cooperate with the state?
Yes, cooperate, but I'm not working for them. I'm just working
And
under
as
their
long as you
laws.
testify truthfully?
Yes, I am testifying truthfully on what I have.
And in exchange for cooperation with the state's attorney has agreed to recommend a probation before judgment, correct?
Yes.
And with the probation before judgment, this charge can be expunged from your criminal record, correct?
It will still show that I have been found guilty of this charge, but it will be deleted after a couple of years, but I have been found guilty.
So you need to testify truthfully for the state, correct?
Yes, I am testifying truthfully.
And it is the state who decides whether or not you testify truthfully, correct?
Well, I guess so, but I mean,
The same state that is trying to convict Ms. Luna?
I'm simply trying to testify on what happened. I'm not working for the state. I'm certainly not
But it
getting
is the
paid.
state who decides whether or not you testify truthfully.
I assume so. I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to say.
regarding the social media account, you were in charge of creating the social media account, correct?
I was, and I was in charge of posting and creating the account.
And managing it?
Managing as in what?
You managed the social media account.
Like what actions would constitute managing? Like
You posted on it. You kept it up to date.
I did create the I put the posts onto Instagram, and yes.
And you posted simultaneously on both yours and the school's social media account, correct?
Well, I wasn't running the high school account, so I'm not sure if you know, but like Instagram, if you tag the other post, it'll show up on the other accounts. So I wasn't running or posting simultaneously on both accounts. I was just tagging the Nanticoke IMD Spirit page.
Yes, but your post did get on the school's social media account, correct?
Yes, it did. I tagged them.
And it was you who decided to go with the strategy of tagging your school's social media account, correct?
It was a good idea, and if Dana had a problem, they could have approached me about it.
And is it true that Miss Luna expressed reservations about the posts on the social media account?
Not the post specifically, but the language.
So she didn't express reservations about the posts at all?
Not the post, just the language. I mean, they were totally for me posting on the social media account page, and I mean, I was in charge of.
The specific posts, though.
Sorry, can you reword your question?
Miss Luna expressed reservations about the posts made on the social media account, correct?
I guess so. More so about the language that I had
And
been using.
targeting Daniel's background?
Yes, they did want me to keep from intensifying the language, but again, they did have a social media account and they had access to whatever I was posting.
And Miss Luna did not respond to your message about adding a little heat, correct?
No, and I took that to mean a yes.
So you still went and added some heat anyway?
Yes, because no response. I mean, they had no problem expressing their boundaries before in the conversation, so I assumed if they had no trouble beforehand, why would they stop in the middle of our
So
conversation?
you don't have any proof to show the jury of any conversation saying she was okay with it.
Well, there is also no explicit thing to tell me to stop or to tone down my
But
language
you don't have
specifically.
any proof saying she was okay with it?
There's no proof either way.
No phone calls?
No, I do not record my phone calls.
And no text messages?
The text messages have been presented with how Andrea Luna left no response, where she was very clear in having her background, her boundaries previously
So
expressed.
it's just your word against hers?
The screenshots are there. We can pull them back up if you need.
That she responded to your message?
There is no further response. The phone is scrolled all the way down in that screenshot, so there is no response to be shown because there was no response, period.
And you yourself described the posts that you made as increasingly aggressive, correct?
Well, yes, I wanted, as the campaign got on, it became more competitive, so I added a little more heat as I received no response saying that I shouldn't.
You used Pick AI to create the images in your post, correct?
I did.
And in these images, the crabs represented the student body, correct?
No, the bears represented the student.
The crab, both the crabs and the bears represented the student body?
Yes, I used cartoonish imagery to.
And the lobster was chosen to represent Danielle
Yes, that is true.
because of her New England background?
His New England background, yes. I used, it was kind of a cartoon type imagery.
And for these images, you wrote AI prompts, correct?
I did write AI prompts.
I'm approaching the opposing counsel with exhibits 6C through 6C, 6I, 6J, 6E, 6F, and 6G and 6H. You can identify these images, correct?
Yes, these are the images that I gained from the guy that I then used to post on the Instagram page.
And these are fair and accurate copies?
They are.
I move to enter exhibits 6D, 6G, 6H, 6I, 6J, 6C, and 6D into evidence.
So let me make sure I have those numbers right. You started with 6E, you skipped 6F.
Sorry, exhibits 6D, 6C, 6E, 6F, 6G, 6H, 6. So exhibits 6C through 6J.
C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. I have it. Thank you.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
That was a pretty weak foundation. Is there any other question you want to ask that I'll sustain the objection and give you opportunity to?
You used Pick AI to create the images that you posted, correct?
I did create those
And
images.
these were the images that you posted?
Those were the images that I posted on Instagram.
I believe this is foundation for these images to be entered into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
They are accepted.
Thank you, Your Honor. To create the image for Exhibit 6G, your prompt said create a cartoon image of a scared lobster being boiled alive in a pot, correct?
Yes.
Above this image, you wrote someone should turn up the heat on Danielle, correct?
Yes, as you can see.
And to create the image for Exhibit 6E, your prompt said create a cartoon image of a sad lobster eating alone in a cafeteria while bears are sitting happy at other tables eating, correct?
Correct.
And above this image, you wrote eating with Danielle is social suicide.
I did, as you can see.
And to create the image for Exhibit 6I, you wrote create a cartoon image of a bear swiping at the water trying to catch a fish, but instead of a fish, make it a very scared lobster, correct?
Correct.
And just to be clear, this bear represents the student body,
Yes, the bear does represent the student.
and this lobster represents Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, to create the image for Exhibit 6D, you wrote an AI prompt, correct?
I did. I wrote AI prompts for all of these.
And this prompt said create a cartoon image of a crab smashing a lobster with a mallet. The crab should be angry and trying to really hurt the lobster, correct?
Yes.
Above this image, you wrote, here's what should happen to Danielle if they win and cancel the crab feast. Why wait, right?
That is true, as you can see on the image.
And you did not tell Miss Luna how far you were going, correct?
Well, I did send them the first few posts, and they had full access to them, so I didn't feel the need to send them every single image unless they explicitly wanted to, and at any point they had access to
But
these.
you did not tell Miss Luna how far you were going.
I'm not sure how you would want me to express. Would you like me to have liked me to list out every single post before posting them to her?
Okay, but you specifically did not tell her in fear that she would have reservations, correct?
I told her that I was posting and intensifying the language. I'm not sure how you would want me to explicitly explain how intense I'm going with my language.
But court's indulgence. You recall writing an affidavit, correct?
I did write an affidavit.
And this is your signature?
Yes, that is my signature.
On lines 67 through 68, you wrote, with this encouragement, I made posts that were increasingly aggressive, but I did not tell Dana exactly how far I was going, knowing that it's possible that they might have restrictions. Is this correct?
I assume so then, but still, I would like to ask you again, exactly how would you have liked me to express how intense I was going with my language? Would you have liked me to send every single image to Andrea Luna? Would you have wanted me to ask every
You are posting these messages under her name. Do you not believe that she should have knowledge of what you were posting?
She had full access to what I was posting on Instagram, so if she ever wanted me to take down a post, remove it, or not post at all, she could have told me at any time, and I saw them regularly around the school, so if they did not want a digital footprint either, they could have told me at school.
So Just to be clear, it was you and only you who posted all of the increasingly aggressive images on social media, correct?
I did so under Dana's
No
instruction.
further questions.
Does the state have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez, whose campaign were you campaigning on behalf of?
I was campaigning on behalf of Andrea Luna, under whom I received all instruction and full direction.
You were posting in Dana's name and with her authority, right?
Yes, they
Objection
approved.
leading.
Overruled.
Could you repeat the question, please?
You were posting in Dana's name and with her authority, correct?
Yes, they did approve my posts.
And Dana Luna asked you to make these posts directly.
Yes, they explicitly told me to post.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
They did tell me to post on the Instagram account, which we discussed in much length together.
And as Dana was the candidate, it was their job to monitor and control their own campaign, correct?
Yes, under election rules, it is their authority.
May we publish Exhibit 9B, which has already been admitted into evidence, Your Honor?
9B, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez, you were communicating regularly back and forth with Dana Luna throughout the length of this discussion, correct?
I did, yes.
And after you said your last comment, there was no response.
There was no response. That screenshot is scrolled all the way down.
And this was an abrupt and very unprecedented thing, considering that you had been talking back and forth, right?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any recross?
No, Your Honor.
The witness may step down. Does the state have an additional witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Before we continue, the state requests an updated time.
I was thinking the same thing. We've done 2 of the prosecution witnesses. Can you give us a time check for both sides?
The state has 20 minutes and 34 seconds, and the defense has 26 minutes and 8 seconds.
Thank you very much.
The state would like to call Detective Cameron Ali to the witness stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
Good evening, Detective.
Good evening.
Could you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Cameron Ali. I'm a law enforcement officer with the Chesapeake County Police Department. I am a detective in the Electronic Crimes Task Force.
And what fields of work do you specialize in at the CCPD?
I specialize in cyber-related offenses. This would include cyberbullying, electronic harassment, and cybercrime.
And what else is part of your job description?
I also conduct interviews. I have undergone trauma-informed investigative training, which allows me to extract accurate information from victims of these crimes who are in extreme emotional distress.
And on top of your investigative work, what other trainings have you completed?
I have completed the National Cybercrime Training Partnership. I have completed the FBI's Cybercrime Investigative School. I've done a course with the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists. And through these trainings, I have learned online investigative techniques. I have learned metadata extraction and digital forensics.
And with these trainings, have you learned any other skills that have helped you in your field of work?
Yes, these trainings have helped me become proficient in using digital tools in order to analyze data from social media. This pertains to the integrity of my evidence as I identify, extract, preserve, and analyze metadata.
And how many trials have you previously been admitted as an expert?
I've been admitted as an expert in about 30 trials, give or take, in both the circuit and district courts in Chesapeake County.
And in what areas have you been admitted as an expert?
I've been admitted as an expert in the field of recognition, identification, investigation, prevention, and digital forensics of cyber abuse.
And could you expand a little bit on what cyber abuse is and what it includes?
Yes, cyber abuse is the use of online platforms in order to gain power or control, typically by intimidating or harassing someone.
And how many of your past trials have you found reliable?
I've been found reliable 29 times.
So how many have you been found unreliable?
Only one time.
And when were you found unreliable at this time?
I was found unreliable in the circuit court in Chesapeake County in June of 2022 in a cyber stalking case. This case dealt with shared household devices, and I failed to take into account that these devices were shared and claimed that the defendant was the one responsible for the cyber stalking.
So just to reiterate, other than this one case, you have never been found unreliable by the court.
No.
And what is the difference between this case with Daniel and your previous case?
The previous case that dealt with cyberstalking was about 2.5 years ago. In this case regarding Daniel Benoit, there are no shared household devices that I need to take into account.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to your experience in the cyber abuse investigation process. What methods did you use to review this case?
First, I conducted an interview with Daniel Benoit himself regarding the targeted social media account. Then I did an analysis of the social media posts and the account. And then I conducted an interview with Roberta Lopez, the one responsible for the account. And then I finished my investigation up with a forensic investigation and metadata extraction of Roberta's iPhone.
Did you have sufficient facts and data to draw conclusions?
Yes, I
Objection,
did.
this witness has not been admitted as an expert in their field and therefore cannot testify about their conclusions of the analysis of the facts of this case.
Your Honor, having sufficient facts and data in this case is imperative to being admitted as an expert, as their past cases, in the one that they have not been found reliable, they did not have sufficient facts. So proving that they have facts here will lead to them being admitted as an expert.
I will overrule the objection, but you are bordering close to the point where you want to admit Detective Ali as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this point in time, I'd like to ask the court to recognize Detective Cameron Ali as an expert in the field of cyber abuse.
Does the defense have any objection to the admission of Detective Ali as an expert witness?
Yes, Your Honor. May I voir dire?
You may, voir dire.
Your National Cyber Crime Training Partnership program was online, yes?
Yes.
It was a 4-week intensive?
Mm-hmm.
This was in 2020,
Yes.
and this was 4 years ago.
Yes.
And so in this specific field of training, you've had nothing more recent?
I've testified in court more recently, which
specific
allows me.
Training-wise, you've not had anything more recent?
I have not needed to get anything more recent.
And
training.
you've attended the 2021 Cybercrime Investigative School, yes?
Yes.
This was 2 weeks long.
Yes.
3 years ago?
Yes.
And in this specific regard to training, you have not had any more recent training?
No, I have not needed to get any more recent training because the trainings
Thank
all are
you.
the same.
In 2020, early 2020, sorry, you completed the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists program, yes?
Yes.
This was 2 weeks long.
Yes.
This focused on electronic evidence collection and cyber harassment mitigation. Yes.
Yes.
Mitigation is the act of reducing the severity of something.
Yes.
This is not identifying it.
Identifying what exactly?
Mitigation is not identifying cyber harassment, is it not?
But my other trainings allow me to identify cyber harassment.
Would you be able to point out which one it is? Just a yes or a no?
Yes.
Which one?
I believe it's the FBI Cybercrime Investigative School is which one that would allow me to.
Thank you. But this training was also 3 years ago.
Yes, but I have not needed to get any further training to keep me updated on it.
So all of your specialized training was at least 3 years ago.
Yes.
And can you agree that technology changes over time?
Yes.
Would you say that this might mean that some of your training from at least 4 years ago could be out of date?
I would not say that technology has changed that much in 4 years.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would like to object to the admittance of Detective Cameron Ali as an expert in the field of cyber crimes because all of their training could be considered out of date with the way that technology and social media has evolved over time.
Objections overruled. The witness is admitted as an expert.
Thank you.
How did you become involved with this case?
I responded to a call on October 7th, 2024 from Daniel Benoit regarding electronic harassment.
And how did you initially approach this case?
Initially, I conducted an interview with Daniel regarding the anonymous social media account Truth or Daniel.
And how did that interview go?
When Daniel began speaking about the nature of these posts, he became very visibly distressed. He was shaking, he was trembling, he was fidgeting with his hands, he was avoiding direct eye contact. He seemed like he was on the verge of tears. This is something that I experience a lot with victims of these crimes who are going through emotional distress.
And what was your next step after this interview?
After this interview, I decided to do an analysis of the social media posts. From this, it was clear to me that the post started off innocently by just highlighting Daniel's background, but then eventually they moved to hostile language and alarming comments from other students.
And who created these posts?
Roberta Lopez, by request of Dana Luna as her campaign manager.
Did these posts, in your expert opinion, contribute to Daniel's emotional distress?
Yes, I would say that they have potential psychological effects, as there was...
Objection, speculation. The witness is not qualified to testify under psychological effects, simply cybercrime.
Response?
Your Honor, based on knowledge, training, and experience, Detective Ali has more than enough knowledge to testify on the effects of cyber abuse, as that is the field that they have been admitted as an expert in.
Overruled.
I am now approaching opposing counsel with pre-marked exhibits 7D and 7E.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I believe 7E was already admitted, so.
Yes, Your Honor.
But
I'll be retrieving
7D
that.
was not?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Was 7D admitted?
Not yet, Your
You
Honor.
need to lay a foundation. Okay.
Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do. These are posts from the @Nanticoke High MD Spirit page that tag the account @Truth or Danielle, and they are both with comments.
And could you tell me what these are?
Yes, these are like posts that are from the AI generated pictures that have the comments from other students, as well as the tag @Truth or Danielle.
And has this evidence been changed in any way since you last saw it?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer into evidence pre-marked exhibit 7D and the retrieval of 7E.
No objections, Your Honor.
So 7E is already admitted. At this time, we'll admit 7D.
Correct. Can you read the name of the account that is tagged in these posts from @Nanticoke High MD Spirit?
Yes, it is @Truth_Daniel.
Is this the same account that is run by Dana Luna and her respective counsel?
Yes, it is.
What kind of community outreach these posts have due to @Truth or Daniel being account being tagged?
It would have ensured that almost all of the student body at Nanticoke High School could see these posts rather than just those who followed the account.
So in your expert opinion, would you say that these comments on these posts are a general reflection of the student body at Nanticoke High School?
Yes.
And how would these posts and its comments have contributed to Daniel's emotional distress?
There are two major themes with this campaign on the Instagram account, eliciting violence and promoting isolation. The one on the left, I think is, yeah, okay. That's the crab holding a hammer over top of a lobster. As it is seen throughout most of the posts, the theme remains the same of Daniel being the lobster. And this post would promote illicit violence, and there's like hashtags in the comments such as alone and, hashtag smash to bits, and I like this one would elicit violence, but then the other one, this is a AI generated photo of a lobster sitting alone at lunch with happy bears around it, which is meant to represent the Nanticoke High cafeteria, and the caption of it is "Eating with Daniel is social suicide." This is meant to promote isolation as the lobster remains the same theme, meaning to be Daniel, with hashtags such as alone and ashamed.
And after your content analysis, what was your next step?
After my content analysis, I decided to cross-reference the data from the social media account with the school's records, which allowed me to figure out who was responsible for the account. There I found that Roberta Lopez created the account, which is a student at Nanticoke High School.
And after you found out about Roberta's involvement, what did you do?
After I found out about Roberta's involvement, I decided to conduct an interview with Roberta in her home. There, she confessed to running the account by request of Dana as the campaign manager for the campaign, and she also turned over her phone for forensic investigation.
Through your metadata and forensic analysis investigation, what main conclusions were you able to draw?
After my review of face-to-face conversations, text messages, and Roberta's detailed testimony, it is clear to me that this campaign started off innocently but quickly took a dark turn towards attacking Daniel's character. The targeted posts made by Roberta by request of Dana reinforced a pattern of physical intimidation, social exclusion, harassment, and fear towards Daniel, which therefore could potentially cause him emotional harm. Furthermore, with Dana's approval of the social media strategy, even with her reservations, she made no clear effort to stop the social media posts, which the effect was made very clear in the school community, which made her complicitly in this campaign of harassment against Daniel.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are no more questions from the state.
Defense?
You've had your testimony found unreliable before, yes?
Yes, one time.
And you claimed that the digital activity from a device suggested that the defendant was responsible.
That dealt with shared devices. This case does not.
Yes, but you also failed to do a necessary follow-up investigation to rule out other suspects, yes?
That case is different than this case.
But in that case, it is true that you overstretched your testimony, correct?
Yes.
It was deemed unreliable by the court because of its being overstretched, yes?
Yes.
And with the social media account, you agree that the posts were made to discredit Daniel, yes?
Yes.
Which was during an election?
Yes.
And I would also like to point out, you had brought up the fact that Daniel was fidgeting a lot, yes?
Yes.
And you interpreted this as significant discomfort and emotional strain?
Yes. It's a common theme among victims that I speak to, as I've undergone trauma-informed training during investigations.
But did you never consider that Mr. Benoit might fidget regularly?
There were other factors that played into my conclusion that there was emotional distress. Can you repeat the question, please?
Did you consider that Mr. Benoit might fidget regularly?
No.
Thank you. And you never considered that he might be uncomfortable holding eye contact, particularly with someone that he might not know?
Well, see, the thing is...
Yes or no, did he...
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
So I will overrule the objection, but warn the attorney that you do have to give the witness the opportunity to answer your question.
Okay. Sorry, we'll move on from that. When you interviewed Ms. Lopez, she had told you that it was her social media account at Truth or Danielle?
Yes.
And she was the one responsible for these posts?
Yes, by request of Dana Luna.
She was the one responsible for creating the posts?
Yes.
She was also the one to suggest that social media could sway the public opinion to Ms. Luna's side, yes?
Yes.
And you recognize that Ms. Luna had reservations about these posts, yes?
She made no clear effort to stop them, and the effect was made very clear, so the reservations don't mean anything in the end when there is no intent to stop them.
And Ms. Luna had messaged Ms. Lopez about these reservations when this had happened. Ms. Lopez had simply urged for them to apply a little heat, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. You also recognize that the main debate was originally the crabs versus lobsters, yes?
Yes.
And that they were made in a cartoony fashion.
Yes.
But you also believe that the posts were designed to intimidate, harass, and humiliate, and I'm sorry. You believe that these posts were made to intimidate, harass, and humiliate Mr. Benoit, yes?
Yes.
These posts were made by Roberta Lopez.
Yes.
Sorry, that
Yeah,
was not
you're
phrased
good.
as a
You're good.
question. But you never interviewed Miss Luna.
I did not need to because the evidence from my investigation proved enough.
You did not interview her.
No, I did not need
You
to.
did not interview her family.
No, I did not need to.
And you never gathered a warrant for Miss Luna's electronic devices.
No, because the warrant for Roberta's phone allowed me to view all the text messages between the two.
So you never had a warrant for Miss Luna.
No.
And in the text messages between Miss Lopez and Miss Luna, Dana Luna explicitly says that we cannot let it turn into something negative. We're sticking with facts, not personal attacks. Can you confirm this?
Yes.
And Miss Luna specifically, this was Miss Luna specifically stating that she does not want the post to be personal. Yes.
Yes.
But you interpreted them as harmful or personal?
Yes.
Yet you also have an uncertain conclusion about these messages from Miss Luna.
What do you mean?
You have an uncertain conclusion about the true intention of Miss Luna through her and her. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm just going to move on from that question.
Okay.
Your expert opinion is that the evidence from the messages does not conclusively prove Miss Luna's encouragement or direction to Miss Lopez to post the images.
She could have stopped Miss Lopez.
But your expert opinion is that they do not conclusively prove. There's no conclusive evidence here.
No, both ways.
Thank you. And you testified to the prompts for the AI images earlier, yes? With
Yes.
these two prompts up. But again, you've had your testimony deemed unreliable before. Please answer verbally for the court. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, you're okay. So would it not be out of the question to assume that your conclusions regarding the intent behind these prompts may be stretched?
That
Your Honor. The question calls for speculation.
I'll overrule that. The witness can answer the question.
Would you like me to repeat?
yes.
Sorry.
Can you please repeat that?
Would it not be out of the question to assume that you may have overstretched your testimony again, knowing that you've done it previously?
The case before was different than this case that dealt with shared devices. This case has no shared devices that I need to take into account, and so my conclusion was drawn solely on the evidence that I was given through one device.
I need to highlight that this is about the analysis conclusions, not necessarily the devices. You'd overstretched your testimony with the analysis.
Okay.
And you also had realized that these are cartoony and illustrative, yes?
Yes.
And you realized that the prompts are needed to see the harassment behind these posts.
Yes.
And it was Roberta Lopez and Roberta Lopez alone who came up with the posts, yes?
Yes.
Roberta Lopez, who the state has offered a PBJ.
I cannot speak to that.
You are part of the state, Ms. Lopez. You are with the police department that would have offered her the PBJ.
I did not offer her the PBJ.
And all of your information comes from Roberta Lopez.
Yes.
And this is the same Roberta Lopez who is definitely responsible for the account that you believe is part of the harassment campaign against Mr. Daniel Benoit.
Yes, that was created by request of Dana Luna and her campaign.
But she is the one solely responsible for the account at Truth or Danielle.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Do you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Have you testified in cases since the the trial where you were found unreliable?
Objection leading.
Your Honor, I'm simply asking if she has she testified in those cases.
Overruled.
Yes, I have.
Thank you. And who does Roberta Lopez work for?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Roberta Lopez.
Oh.
She was a social media manager. Who
Yes.
does she work for?
Yes, she works for Dana Luna.
And these posts seen on the projector here, can you see aggression in these posts without the captions?
Yes. Objection calls for speculation.
So Detective Ali is been qualified as a witness, and I think the question concerns an expert opinion on the post. So I will overrule the objection.
Yes, even without the captions, there's clearly a crab holding a hammer over top of a lobster. And in the other post, there's clearly a lobster sitting all alone with a sad face while it's in a room full of bears all eating together and happy.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are no more questions from the state.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
So we should get a time check. Detective Ali, you may step down. And that prosecution rests its case.
The prosecution has 9 minutes and 14 seconds left, and the defense has 16 minutes and 45 seconds left.
Defense may call its first witness.
Defense calls Dana Luna to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
Good evening, Miss Dana. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Dana Luna. I'm 18 years old and I'm a senior here at Nanticoke High School. I take my academic record pretty seriously with a 4.0 GPA and a few extracurriculars that keep me busy.
What kind of extracurriculars?
Well, I'm part of the Mathletes in the National Honor Society, and now, probably most importantly, I'm president of the Student Council.
Why is that most important to you?
I just worked so hard to get this position, since I knew it would be able to let me help our science program, since it was really struggling.
What do you mean? How is the science program struggling?
Well, our materials were really lacking in quality, and it made science hard to participate in. Even to some extent, it made it dangerous.
Can you explain what made it dangerous?
Sure. I was in my biology class earlier this year, and my teacher asked us to perform a dissection on a frog, and as I went to make an incision with my scalpel, that's when it all went wrong.
What went wrong?
Well, my tray slipped, and frog guts spilled everywhere. And when I mean frog guts, I mean the spleen, the stomach, the small intestines, the large intestines, even the cloaca. And it was just so traumatizing, and I didn't want anything like this to happen to anyone else, so I knew something had to change, and that I had to be the one to change it.
And how were you planning on doing that?
By running for student council elections.
So how did you get involved with the elections?
I just saw a flyer in the hall, and it was promoting the elections, and I decided to campaign and run.
I'm now showing opposing counsel to mark this exhibit 1. I'm now showing you what's been marked as exhibit 1 for identification. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is this?
This is a flyer promoting the Nanticoke High School Student Council elections.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of that?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move to admit exhibit 1 into evidence. No objection.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
So you said after seeing this flyer, you decided to run. Why is that?
Well, as you see at the top, it says, "Are you ready to make a difference at Nanticoke High? Run for student council and be a leader in our community." That's exactly what I wanted to do. So I started to campaign.
And what was your campaigning process like?
I just started by making some informational posters that stood for what I believed in, the science program.
I'm now showing opposing counsel what's been marked as exhibit 3 for identification.
Flip it over.
Court's indulgences. I'm now showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 3 for identification. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is this?
This is a flyer I made to promote my campaign.
And is this a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 3 into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
So you had mentioned that, well, first, could you just explain this post a little bit, please?
Sure. I made this poster and it says, "Score big with STEM. Elect Dana Luna for a winning game plan." It was exactly what I wanted. It spoke for the science program and it appealed to the population of Nanticoke.
So, what, if anything else, or other reason why was this exactly what you wanted for any reason?
Well, it stayed to what I believed in, the science program, and it didn't focus on negative attacks, since other people were saying rude things about me and my campaign at this time.
What kind of rude things were being said about you?
Well, people in the hallway, like after Daniel, after Daniel started the campaign, people started calling me names like dork and nerd, and it really hurt my feelings because I couldn't understand why they were calling me this. I just wanted to help our science program.
Moving on, how, if ever, did your campaigning style change after this?
It mainly started to change once other people got involved in my campaign process.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, for starters, the Dana Wonders posters weren't made by me, and they just added more tension to the election that I really didn't want.
I'm now showing this remote as Exhibit 5D for identification. I'm now showing this remote as Exhibit 5D. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Is this a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
What's the number on the exhibit?
5D.
D?
Yes.
That's already been admitted. You don't need to lay a foundation for it. It was admitted by the other side. Do I have that wrong?
No, I think you're good. Sorry.
We did not admit 5D.
We
We
admitted
admitted 5A through C. Through C.
Okay.
A and C, okay.
Okay.
So you do.
Okay. I'm just gonna repeat that. Sorry. So what is this?
This is a Dana Wonders poster.
And is this a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, this is.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 5D into evidence.
No objection.
5D is now admitted.
I'm now publishing what's already been admitted as 5A into evidence. Ms. Dana, could you please explain what this post is a little bit?
This is a picture of a lobster in a Boston Celtics jersey saying, "Dana wonders how long it took for Daniel to stop dropping their R's when talking."
This is Exhibits 5B and 5C. Could you explain these, please?
The first one is a Dunkin' coffee cup saying Dana wonders if Daniel only drinks Dunkin' coffee. And the last one is 5C saying Dana wonders if Daniel wished he joined the ice hockey slate instead. And it's a picture of a lobster holding a hockey stick.
And lastly, Exhibit 5D. Could you explain these, please?
This is a Boston Red Sox logo saying Dana wonders why Daniel only wears Red Sox so much.
So, of these exhibits, how did you feel about these?
Since I didn't make them,
Objection. Speculation.
Overruled.
well, since I didn't make them, they weren't at all what I had wanted.
If you didn't make these posters, who did?
My little sister Andrea Luna did.
So, what were your intentions with letting your little sister make your campaign posters?
I'm just not very good at making things, especially visually appealing ones, and I know my sister's super talented with that. So I let her take the reins by making some harmless informational posters to make the school aware of my competitor without putting too much pressure, but it just caused more harm than I had wanted.
Can you elaborate on that harm?
Well, these posters really started to gain traction, and people really started to listen to what I had to say, as opposed to Daniel. And it was just good until it wasn't.
When did things start to turn bad?
Probably when Roberta Lopez approached me and offered me help with my campaign.
Can you point Roberta out for the court?
She's sitting over there wearing a white blouse.
Let the record reflect that the defendant has pointed out Roberta Lopez. Returning to our conversation, what happened when Roberta reached out to you initially?
Well, they talked about how much they loved my campaign and the message behind it, which was fighting for classroom funding. And they just offered me help by taking my campaign online and taking care of that for me.
And did she end up helping you?
Not in the way I had wanted her to. It wasn't at all what I had wanted.
So can you elaborate on that? Why wasn't it what you wanted?
It was just all the campaign strategies and posts she was making on the account. I would have never taken it that far and that extreme.
Did you ever try to express this to her?
Yes, I did multiple times. I texted her to stay focused on the facts and not personal attacks.
Okay, I'm now showing opposing. Counsel exhibits 8A through 10, 8, or 9B has already been admitted though. 8, you guys admitted, oh sorry, you guys admitted 9B. I'm now showing you exhibits 8A through 10 for identification. Do you recognize these?
Yes, I do.
What are these?
These are text messages between me and Roberta Lopez.
And are these fair and accurate copies of those texts?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I move to admit exhibits 8A, 8B, 9A, and 10 into evidence.
No objections.
They're admitted.
Thank you. So exhibits 8, can you please explain these a little bit, please?
Well, Roberta Lopez stated that they had some great ideas for my campaign, and I said, great, we want to get the word out just beyond the school itself, and I said, as long as it stayed focused on the facts and not turning it into something negative, they could push forth.
And did she agree to do that?
She said, absolutely, I'll take care of the post, and you keep up with the official campaign stuff.
Moving on to exhibit 9A and 9B, can you explain these a little bit, please?
I pitched an idea about how Daniel was from New England, and they said it was a good idea. I said, after that, to stay focused on the facts, because we're better than that. I didn't want to resort to personally attacking somebody just to win. I didn't want that. So I just reminded them after I pitched that idea to keep it civil.
And is that what she did?
Clearly not.
And lastly, exhibit 10, could you explain this, please?
It was her saying that I saw the last posts and it was getting a lot of traction and reactions and that they would want to turn up the heat. And I said, yeah, I saw it. I just didn't want to cross too many boundaries since that's not what I wanted. And I wanted to win on merit, not by putting somebody else down.
So once you found out about the Instagram post, did you ever try to stop them?
I couldn't. It was too late. I only became aware of these posts once these charges were brought against me.
To clarify, did you ever intend to harass or cyber abuse Ms. Benoit through your campaign?
No, I did not.
And do you have anything else you would like to say?
Yes, I do.
Objection. A question needs to be asked.
Sustain.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination by the state.
Yes, Your Honor. But before I begin, may I ask for a time check for both parties?
You may.
Yes, the prosecution has 9 minutes and 14 seconds, and the defense has 4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Thank you.
Good evening, Miss Luna. I have just a couple questions for you. So you were in charge of your campaign, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And so you had input on the direction it went?
You could say that, yes, I did.
Okay. And you saw the initial reaction over the posts that you put up, or the posters that you put up, correct?
I heard about it around the school. I heard what people had to say, and clearly they listened to what I had to say. So yes, I did.
And you liked this reaction, correct, since you pushed forward?
I liked that people were supporting my message for fighting for science program funding. I really liked that. That was my whole goal. I really liked that people agreed with what I had to say.
Okay. So if people saying bad things in the hall about you bothers you, then why wouldn't it bother Daniel?
I didn't say that I liked people saying bad things about Daniel. I said that I liked them supporting the science program.
But if you didn't like it, then why would you think that Daniel would?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You liked the reaction that you were getting with your posters, which were negative. So wouldn't that have bothered Daniel? It certainly bothered you, correct?
I liked the reaction that people had with listening to my funding for the science program message. I liked that. I didn't necessarily state that I liked the attacks that went towards Mr. Benoit.
But you didn't stop them, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. So if you claim that you have reservations, but you never stopped it, then isn't that a little contradictory?
I can't force people to do things they don't want to do. I can't control what other people say on social media, especially with the comments. I can't control what people say about that.
So you agree that you had full control over your campaign?
You could say that, but Roberta did take over the social media.
You could have stopped anything that Roberta was doing.
I saw the initial post, but I don't...
Yes or no, please?
Can you repeat that?
You could have stopped what Roberta was doing if you didn't agree with it?
No, if I saw the posts, I could have, but since I did not, no, I could not.
So you didn't have control of your campaign?
I didn't have control over that aspect entirely. I gave them the opportunity.
So you're okay with your name being on things that are slandering others?
No, I did not say that.
But it was.
I didn't know what she was posting.
No further questions.
Defense?
No.
Defense wants to move on to the next witness.
The defense would like to call Simon Marshall to the stand, please.
We'll do a quick swearing in. Swearing in.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
You may proceed.
Could you please introduce yourself to the court?
Hello, I'm Simon Marshall. I've been a lawyer for 30 years and recently retired to give back to the community. For the past 5 years, I've been a history teacher at Westminster High School.
And how did you become a lawyer?
I became a lawyer by attending the University of Baltimore Law School, where I got my Juris Doctor degree, and I was officially admitted to practice law in Maryland in 1989.
What did you do while you were practicing law?
While practicing law, I focused primarily on civil rights, specifically First Amendment rights. I litigated in both state and federal courts.
And did you have a focus while practicing law?
My focus while practicing law was primarily, again, on the civil aspect and the protections of the First Amendment.
And you mentioned you were an American government teacher. Could you please expand on how being a teacher has impacted your knowledge of the First Amendment?
Due to my curriculum relating to the First Amendment, I'm up to date on information regarding the First Amendment because of my experience teaching.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Simon Marshall as an expert in the field of First Amendment case law.
Prosecution?
May I have 1 minute witness?
You may.
Isn't it true that you haven't practiced law in over 5 years?
That is correct, although I am up to date on information as priorly stated because of my experience teaching, which covers multiple cases regarding recent cases and much information in recent litigation.
Understood. Because you haven't practiced law in over 5 years, your application of current case law may not be accurate.
Could you please restate the question?
Because you haven't practiced law in over 5 years, your application of current case law may not be accurate.
It may not be, however...
Thank you. Are you familiar with the 2022 case of Schiff versus State?
I am familiar with that case.
And you weren't still practicing law at that time, were you?
That is incorrect. Or that is correct.
So you aren't up to date with current case law?
I'm still aware of current cases as priorly stated because of my experience teaching.
But you weren't presiding over anything during that time frame?
That is correct.
The state objects to Simon Marshall being admitted as an expert due to the expert not being up to date with current case law. Therefore, his opinion is not relevant to this case.
Mr. Marshall will be admitted as a expert witness. Your objection's overruled.
What have you done to prepare your testimony for today, Mr. Marshall?
I have read all 5 other affidavits and examined exhibits 1 through 10. My analysis is, I'm aware that Dana has claims to have not been aware of the post. However, my analysis is assuming that Dana was aware of the posts, as if she was not, then she would not be guilty at all.
And can you expand on the First Amendment and how it applies to this case, please?
In the context of this trial, the First Amendment includes words, symbols, and acting in a way which is likely to convey a message. It protects political speech to the highest degree, however, it does have limits.
And could you describe these limits for me, please?
These limits include incitement, fighting words, and true threats.
And can you go more in depth in explaining these, please?
Incitement is speech that is meant to produce or likely to produce imminent lawless action in the near future. Fighting words are words that are personally abusive and likely to instigate a violent reaction. And true threats are threats that that express a serious threat of harm to someone. The threatener must be aware that their threats are threatening, or that their threats could be interpreted as threatening and still deliver those statements.
And can you please, you mentioned political speech earlier. What, if anything, is the difference between harassment and political speech?
Political speech may be critical or mocking, as it is essential for public discourse in democracy. Political speech does not rise to the level of harassment or true threats unless it crosses the line of posing a direct threat of violence or incites lawless action.
And in your expert opinion, how is this case related to the First Amendment and political speech?
Political speech is protected under the First Amendment as it is necessary for public discourse in democracy. Political speech is protected as courts consistently uphold speech, whether it is controversial, negative, or critical, and the posts made are political speech.
And in your expert opinion, why are these posts political speech?
The posts consistently seek to discredit one candidate by talking about specific attributes of Dana Luna's opponent. The posts furthermore contain imagery, which is used as a form of political expression. For instance, Danielle is displayed as a lobster and the student body is displayed as a bear. Furthermore, the posts do not call for lawless action or incite violence, so they do not rise to the level of true threats or fighting words.
So, in your expert opinion, is the speech of Miss Dana Luna and is the speech made through these posts protected by the First Amendment?
In my expert opinion, while aggressive, their speech is all part of a legitimate campaign and is therefore protected under the First Amendment and does not violate the protections under political speech.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Does the prosecution have cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Marshall, you were once a teacher of the defendant Dana Luna, correct?
That is correct. In the fall semester of 2023, I have not talked to them since the fall semester of 2023.
You gave Dana Luna the highest grade you could in her class, correct? An A?
I do not recall, unfortunately, the grade that I did give Dana Luna, although I'm assuming it's an A because I do remember that she was one of our school's top academic achievers.
Do you remember signing an affidavit?
I do remember signing an affidavit.
And you consider Dana Luna as a top student at the school, correct?
I have heard many great things about her. I think she's generally considered one of our school's top academic achievers, as priorly stated.
And now you're here as a witness for Dana Luna.
That is incorrect. I'm not here for Dana Luna. I'm here to give my opinion on this case.
And you are on the defense, as is Dana Luna.
That is correct.
So your opinion here is based on personal experience, correct?
My opinion here is based on my personal experience as a lawyer.
And as you said, you're familiar with Schiff versus State. It outlines that harassment isn't protected speech, correct?
That is correct.
If I could direct the court's attention to previously admitted Exhibit 7D. This post could be interpreted to incite violence, correct?
as priorly stated, the AI prompts.
Yes or no.
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
So yes or no, these posts could be interpreted to incite violence?
Yes, but it
Thank
depends
you,
on
Your Honor. There are
who's-
no more questions from the state.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
So the defense is in a time crunch, but may call its third witness.
Your Honor, may we ask for a time check?
You have 57 seconds left.
The defense calls Andrea Luna to stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under the pain and penalties of perjury?
I do.
You may sit down.
Could you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Andrea Luna. I am 15 years old. I'm a sophomore at Nanacoke High School, and I am Dana Luna's younger sister.
And could you please tell the jury who was responsible for the creation of the Dana Wonders posters?
I am the person responsible for the creation of the Dana Wonders posters. Besides my sister assisting in very few taglines, I take full accountability for these posters.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. The state requests a time check, please.
The state has 3 minutes and 35 seconds left.
Good evening, Ms. Luna. You contributed to Dana's campaign by creating posters for them, as stated in your affidavit, correct?
Yes, I created the Dana Wonders posters and her original posters with her.
And you admit that Dana assisted you in the process of creating these posters, correct?
She assisted with the first one, but I was the main person in charge of the Dana Wonders posters.
In your affidavit, you state that after brainstorming ideas to make Dana's campaign stand out together, quote, Dana approved of the idea. That's why Dana assisted with some of the taglines, quote. So Dana was involved in the creation of this poster, correct?
She was involved, but since she's not very good with technology, I was the main person involved.
The state would like to call attention to Exhibit 5A, which has been argued in would you be willing to read the tagline of this poster that you created, please?
Dana wonders how long it took for Daniel to stop dropping their R's when talking.
Was this meant to critique Daniel's policy platform in any way?
This was more just to promote Dana's campaign by...
yes or no, was it meant to critique Daniel's policy platform?
Well, my intention was to focus
yes
more...
Or no, please?
Yes.
It was, what aspect of Daniel's policy platform was this meant to critique?
The fact that he is from New England, but that was because to gain political traction for my sister to have the student body associate her with the fact that she is from Maryland and most of the student body is from Maryland.
So you would admit that this is not critiquing his governmental actions, what he's going to do as a candidate, but instead his state of origin, correct?
Yes, but that was
Thank
my
you.
idea.
Would you agree that the purpose of campaigning is to encourage the constituents to choose one candidate that they like and to not vote for the other, correct?
Yes.
The entire purpose of this poster, as you've testified, was to single out Daniel as an outsider.
Not
Correct.
as an outsider, but just as to make my sister look better as a candidate.
Was this poster not intended to imply and, quite frankly, state that he was of New England origin instead of Maryland?
His origin, yes.
Thank you. Would you agree that this poster is nativist?
Can you define that, please?
Nativism meaning isolating and discriminating against someone, a group or an individual who is a foreigner. In this case, Daniel, on the account of his state of origin being from New England and not from Chesapeake, Maryland.
For my perspective, for his origin being from New England, is that what you mean instead of Maryland?
Yes or no, please. Does this support nativism and that it is isolating Daniel?
Yes, but it was my idea, not my sister's.
Thank you. You did state that Dana helped and created these posters, correct?
Yes, but I was the main person in charge of them.
Yes. And you stated in your affidavit that your sister, Dana Luna, never lies, correct?
Yes, she never lies.
And you also revealed that Dana-
Besides the fact that she's lied about chores a few times.
Yes, thank you. You revealed that she has, in fact, lied multiple times to her parents, correct?
Yes, about chores. Nothing related to the campaign.
Thank you. Are you aware that in their affidavit, Dana Luna claimed not to have known in the slightest about Daniel Benoit's harassment and bullying at Nanticoke?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Are you aware that in their affidavit, Dana Luna claimed not to have known in the slightest about Daniel Benoit's suffering and intimidation at Nanticoke?
Yes.
So keeping in mind what you wrote in your affidavit, quote, Dana has been grounded before for lying to our parents on more than one occasion, quote.
That's time.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
The witness may step down. Under the My Law program, we now move to closing arguments, and the defense goes first in closing arguments.
Members of the jury, you've heard the evidence. Earlier tonight, we asked that you would return a verdict of not guilty. You've heard uncontradictory testimony that Roberta Lopez is the person responsible for the account at Truth or Danielle. You've heard it from Ms. Lopez herself, and she told you her plans with the account, and Detective Carminelli confirmed them. That's the truth of this case. The state's primary witness, Daniel Benoit, ran for student body president to strengthen his college resume. After his fashion club got shut down for a runway show that seemed to mock and ridicule homeless people, he needed another extracurricular that would make him look good to colleges. Mr. Benoit even says that the First Amendment should have been applied to his show. Yet he doesn't think it applies here in a situation that is protected under the First Amendment. When his excuses did not save it, he decided that running for student council president would be the best way to stand out from other college applicants. You've heard from Dana Luna's sister, Miss Andrea Luna. Miss Andrea is 15 and was a sophomore who wanted to help her sister with the needs of the school. The fact that she had helped her sister, truthfully, is a testament to the connection between them as sisters. Miss Andrea knows Miss Luna, better than anyone else as her sister, and testified earlier to the fact that she's almost always truthful besides getting out of a few chores. Miss Andrea has also taken full claim to the Dana Wonders campaign and had the idea and she was the one to come up with the idea to focus on the campaign that Mr. Benoit was not from Maryland. Dana Luna was not the person to come up with this idea at all. In fact, the only poster that Miss Luna ever made was the one that advocated for science funding. Let's not forget where this started. Let's not forget where this started for Miss Luna either. She's passionate about the sciences and a straight A student. The defendant was crudely embarrassed when fraud got spilled all over her. When her teacher explained that the school cannot afford to pay for the sharp scalpels that prevent injury and messes, she wasn't upset about the mess or embarrassment. She just was distraught about the constraints of her school's budget. Moving on, Detective Cameron Ali is a detective, the detective responsible for investigating Miss Luna. Yet, she's never had any conversation with the defendant. And Dana Luna's phone was never investigated, her family was never contacted, and she never provided testimony to the detective. The only person who was investigated was the real creator of these posts, and the person who may have had malicious intentions. That person is Roberta Lopez. Roberta Lopez, who wanted aggressive posts, but not threatening. In fact, in an attempt to be non-threatening, they had even used the AI to make sure that the posts were cartoony. The detective also agrees that these posts were cartoony in nature as well. The detective also had access to the prompts used to create the posts for @Truth or Danielle and made their own conclusions. This is the same detective who's been dismissed for overstretching their conclusions. The same detective whose most recent training was 3 years ago. Technology is always changing. Ms. Ali is the only person besides Roberta Lopez to see the AI prompt inputs. Dana Luna could not be aware of the language used to create the cartoons, even if it could be interpreted as threatening. All of this means two things. Any conclusion that the detective came to may have been overstretched, and that the intent behind the posts from Dana Luna was never to harass Daniel Benoit. Ladies and gentlemen, the state must prove 5 things to you. Firstly, that between September 26th, 2024 and October 5th, 2024, Dana Luna maliciously engaged in electronic conduct. Second, that the electronic conduct had the effect of intimidating and or harassing a minor, Daniel Benoit, and causing serious distress to said minor. Third, that Dana Luna intended to intimidate and or harass the minor, Daniel Benoit, and cause serious emotional distress or to said minor. Fourth, that Dana Luna did not have a lawful purpose for the behavior. And fifth, that Dana Luna did not intend to express a political view or provide information to the others. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I can tell you here today that the prosecution never outlined when these posts were made or the time frame between the maliciously engaged electronic conduct. But I can also tell you one other thing, that between all of these 5 things, intention is shared. And the state cannot give you any direct evidence of Dana Luna's intention. For that matter, I can't give you any evidence of Dana Luna's intention. But I can tell you that her word is known to be trustworthy from her sister, and her word that, unlike others, hasn't been used to make fun of people in need. You've heard her words in court. She wants to use her voice to make a positive impact on her school, and a slander campaign against Daniel Benoit directly opposes that. And that's even if you think this could be a slander campaign. Because at the end of the day, these posts are cartoons. They're like what you would find on a Saturday morning television show. They weren't made to be threatening or to seem like they were harassing. And even if and the only intentions that Miss Luna could have had with these posts was to be political. She wasn't the one to post to social media. She didn't even see the posts until after the campaign was over. Her only engagement was through communication with Ms. Lopez. The text messages show her intents were to win a political campaign. And even after all of this information, you still believe that the account that was harassing the state's primary witness? Please remember who made the account, who made the posts, and who had the intention to be aggressive. Roberta Lopez is the only person responsible for the account at Truth or Danielle that Mr. Benoit believes harassed him. Miss Lopez has confessed to being the person that ran the account. Any blame, if there is any, can be placed on them. The reason they're testifying today is a plea deal with the state. So again, I ask you find a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Prosecution may present their closing statement. You may clear the projector.
Good evening, Your Honors, and members of the jury. May it please the court. Boiled alive, tarred and feathered. Daniel Benoit was a high school student with a bright future and many peers alongside him. He was deeply involved in the school community and was passionate about the students he was around. But now, Daniel's dreams and aspirations of supporting his school community at Nanticoke High School were crushed when Dana Luna publicly defamed him and took away all those closest to him. The evidence in this trial has shown that Dana Luna caused serious emotional distress to Daniel. She created inflammatory posts to project hatred and controversy to her opponent Daniel. These progressively violent posts had a great effect on Daniel. Alongside count 3 of the indictment under Maryland Code of Criminal Law, section 3-805, hold 5 prongs to show Dana Luna's guilt in this case. Number 1, that between September 26th, 2024 and October 5th, 2024, the defendant maliciously engaged in electronic conduct. 2, that the electronic conduct had the effect of intimidating and or harassing a minor, Daniel Benoit, and causing serious emotional distress to said minor. 3, that the defendant intended to intimidate and or harass the minor, Daniel Benoit, and cause serious emotional distress to said minor. Number 4, that the defendant did not have a lawful purpose for behavior. And number 5, that the defendant did not intend to express a political view or provide information to others. Under these rules, Andrea Luna's association and leadership of the Instagram posts is sufficient to prove her guilt. Tonight, the state has called on 3 witnesses. Daniel Benoit, a young man who was a victim of harassment under the guise of Andrea Luna's political campaign. Roberta Lopez, the social media manager who worked at the mercy of Andrea Luna. And Detective Cameron Ali, an expert in the fields of cyber abuse and online harassment, who investigated this case regarding a topic she knows best, cybercrime. Daniel Benoit, who told a story and what it feels like to be on the receiving end of this crime, how stranded and alone he felt, the threats and the hatred he received from the people he once trusted. We received a first-hand account of the emotional distress that victims of online harassment experience. Next, we heard from Roberta Lopez, who had initially approached Andrea Luna about joining her campaign team and followed her instructions diligently. She managed the campaign and created social media posts at the request of Andrea Luna. Lastly, we heard from Detective Cameron Ali, who revealed that the details of this case are very similar to those that she has worked in the past, and that yet the evidence she had gathered from this case is enough to classify this event as a cybercrime, and in her expert opinion, caused serious emotional distress to Daniel Benoit. Now, members of the jury, I ask you to recognize the significance of the increasingly inflammatory posts. As the campaign went on, these posts increased in violent language and depictions. Would Andrea Luna allow the continuation of these posts if she did not appreciate the reaction they were getting? Your Honors and member of the jury, it is apparent that these posts continued because there was no active attempt to stop the creation and publication of these posts, which shows that Andrea Luna has been proven to maliciously engage in misuse of electronic mail. You heard from Roberta Lopez that the Instagram posts made and posted under the direction of Andrea Luna had the effect of intimidating and harassing Daniel Benoit. This conduct had publicly defamed Daniel Benoit and had long-lasting effects on him. These inflammatory and provocative posts caused Daniel serious emotional distress, as the evidence has shown. As Daniel stated in his sworn testimony, he was scared and anxious because of these posts. And I quote, socially tarred and feathered, end quote. Is that how minors are meant to be treated? He was alone and felt too paranoid to feel safe walking in the hallways of his own school. This not only affected his mental health, but also his livelihood in general. In addition to this, these posts were not made to express political views, but rather attack Daniel's character and belittle him. Daniel received third-party threats almost daily due to these posts, telling him that people would, and I quote, come after him, end quote. These threats caused Daniel to isolate himself and lose all of his friends. Even after Andrea Luna was aware of the comments of these posts, she continued to allow her campaign manager to make these posts. Throughout the course of the campaign, these posts got more violent and more inflammatory. This shows beyond the shadow of a doubt that Andrea Luna was searching for this reaction from students. She wanted Mr. Benoit to be affected in this way. After hearing the evidence presented, spoken only to the benefit of the truth, the state of Maryland urges that the court find Andrea Luna guilty of count 3 of the indictment, where she maliciously engaged in electronic conduct to intimidate and harass a minor, causing Daniel Benoit serious emotional distress, and that Andrea Luna did not have a lawful purpose for the behavior, nor expressed a political view or provided information to others. Daniel Benoit now faces the consequences of Andrea Luna, boiled alive, tarred, and feathered. Thank you, Your Honor.
Nice job by both teams. The court will take this case under advisement, and we intend to rule from the bench shortly. You may be seated. Excellent job by both teams. Our panel will offer some comments and then announce the awards. And we'll begin with Judge Titus, who will rule on the merits of the case.
All right, this is the 4th time that I've judged the competition this year, and the result is going to be the same as far as calling it on the merits. While this is supposed to be a jury trial, and therefore trial judges are told never ever comment on what the jury's verdict should be. Obviously, I'm bending the rules a little bit here, like I have each week, but this is a really tough fact pattern for the state. Simple fact is it is. And of the 5 elements that you had to prove, I'd have no problem finding that the state had met its burden on 4 of them. The problem is that political purpose, final 5th element. and therefore, based upon what I heard, particularly the expert witness as far as First Amendment rights, I find that this is protected political speech, albeit in the context of a high school election. Nonetheless, I could not find that fifth element had been proven beyond reasonable doubt, so therefore my ruling on the merits would be a not guilty in this case. So that's my ruling. I may have some other comments as far as general things, as far as how things went forward later on, but with that, I've made my ruling on the merits. We want to turn it over back to you, Judge Getty.
We'll offer some comments on performance. Judge DeLeonardo.
Sure. Well, first of all, I commend all of you. This is a lot of work. Having been involved with mock trial for many, many years and having kids of my own that have done mock trial, I know you put in a lot of time and energy to make it look like it does when you come in here. So I commend all of you for that. I also extend for all the teacher coaches, the attorney coaches, just tremendous amount of volunteering of your time to do that. Greatly appreciative. It's really phenomenal. Parents, I know it's always fun to see your kids dressed up and making reasonable and logical and arguments in court. It's impressive sometimes. I know when I would see my kids, I wouldn't recognize them sometimes the way they were up there. Really impressive. I also want to thank Ryan Melhorn, I see is here from Carroll County Public Schools, who has done a phenomenal job in supporting the program, is here every week. Again, thank you very much for your help in making this program and your support year-round for doing that. As to all of you. So we see, and I wish sometimes I had a timekeeper in actual trials, because sometimes I wish someone would shout out time and move us along, but that is a huge factor in competition. And it is part of the competition, so that is tough when like you wound up really getting jammed up on your time. And so that's important. All of you did a nice job at times asking for time and getting that, but you really have to think sometimes what is the most essential and make sure you don't get bogged down on any particular witness. Themes, think about those themes. What you're going to leave, you're going to tell us in the beginning, and then at the end, what you're going to tell us, this is what we told you. And I think that's something you want to really look for. Sometimes I would see parts of themes, but make sure that you're coming back to what ultimately that theme is, so that whether it's a judge or whether it's a jury, when we walk away, I can sort of define your case in one sentence. So just think about that. Exhibits. That everyone, I think, did a really nice job in trying to move about and handle those exhibits. One of the things to remember is when they're on the overhead. Sometimes we forget and we leave them there. I know you did a nice job at closing, asking to come over and remove them. So that's a good thought and a way to do that. But just make sure when you're in competition and moving forward, you don't let those exhibits just hang out on the overhead, because in any trial, you want to be controlling what is not only heard, but what is seen during your time. Objections. That is, there's two aspects on that I just want to do really quickly. One is really work on knowing what objections would be appropriate. There were some really good thoughtful objections, and then sometimes there was objections where perhaps it wasn't really appropriate, or even the defense of the objection isn't exactly what it should be. For example, sometimes we would ask about a hearsay exception, and it was really the statement of the defendant, which would be an exception, and that is an exception to hearsay. So make sure that you know not only the objection and the actual reason for that objection, but also the defense of that objection if you have to give it. And the last thing on that is, and I thought this happened a couple times, there was an objection, and you were victorious in the objection, and then you just moved on. So you kind of lost track of what your question was, and so you wound up just moving on. Remember, if you have an objection that's made and you prevail on that, re-ask the question. Don't forget that. I thought there was a couple times where like there was an argument, you won, and then it was like, okay, overruled, and then we just moved on, and I never actually heard the answer to that question. So those are just little things, but I will tell you, it is clear all of you have come a really long way, done a very impressive job. So well done. With that, I'll pass it off to someone.
A couple quick comments, and I'll turn it over to you, Judge Getty, if that's okay. First of all, let me echo what Judge DeLeonardo said. This is always the highlight for me of the week. I was in court almost all day today with minimal breaks until we literally walked out here. And I see people all day at their worst. Sometimes when we're in juvenile court, we see juveniles dealing with it at their worst. It's really nice to see you guys who are clearly on top of your game. So to all of you, congratulations. To your folks, well done, and keep it up. Couple of things as far as themes. I always try to get an attaboy or an attagirl in here, and I'm going to single out Mr. Benoit and Miss Luna. Mr. Benoit, it didn't go unnoticed. Here you are, supposedly the New Englander who everyone's out to get, and he shows up wearing a Maryland tie. I know that was on purpose. I like that. Also, you clearly studied the subject matter and did a very good job, very credible and believable. You did it as you presented it. Same thing for Ms. Luna. Where is she? You also, you're hiding behind a monitor over there. You also clearly know the part. I don't know if you're interested in law school in the future or drama, but either way, very, very well done as far as how you presented. As far as the objections, don't feel bad. Lawyers don't get objections right all the time. And not every judge does what Judge Getty did tonight, where he'll say basis. A lot of times it's a difference. In federal court, you have to state the basis for your objection every time. In state court, it's only if the judge asks you, and you'd be amazed how many times if you ask a lawyer, what's the basis for your objection? And they kind of go, because I thought it was objectionable. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. So don't feel bad if you didn't have a specific ground for it. I thought everyone did a very good job with the way you presented the case tonight. So congratulations to everybody. All right, that's my comments. Judge Getty, to you, you have the score sheet and whatever comments you want to give.
First, I'd like to point out that Judge DeLeonardo also was in a trial all day, a jury trial. And so both of the judges who are here from the Circuit Court for Carroll County were in trials all day and came straight here, and we walked in right when they were done. So we appreciate their time and the commitment of all the judges in the Circuit Court and the District Court to judge at these programs throughout your entire 6 weeks of competition. Many counties don't have that. Many counties are doing their mock trials in a classroom in one of the high schools with law students or lawyers. So we have a wonderful program. I'll also give a shout out to Ryan Melhorn and Carroll County Public Schools for the work that they put into this. Most of the time I'm judging law school students, either at a mock trial. In January, I was at a mock trial program at the United States Naval Academy, Navy versus Army versus Air Force. Unfortunately for me, a Navy family, Air Force won that competition. But I also judge moot court, which is where law school students argue cases as if they were in the appellate court. And what I'm telling you is the same thing I would tell law school students. You did a great job. You had good poise and command of your material. You could perform if you decide to go to law school in a moot court or a mock trial competition and do very well. This is one of the objectives of the My Law program, is to give people a foundation for pursuing a legal career if they're interested, or at least if they go to undergraduate school and participate on a mock trial team, continue their experience in developing your ability to follow legal theory and to argue a case. I'll point out that time management was a concern here. You have to come up with your own rubric for how much time you spend on cross-examination. What I've said to, this has come up in some of the earlier ones that I've judged in January. And what I've said is cross-examination is not to embarrass the witness. It's to get something on the record that you then want the jury, you want to hammer the jury in your closing argument. So if it's not relevant to what Judge DiLeonardo has explained, your theme of the case, you don't need to do a cross. Your cross should be very surgical, meaning that you want to hit 1 or 2 or 3 key points. And then in your closing, you want to say their witness on cross agreed that they didn't do the posters, or they did do the posters, or whatever point you're trying to make on cross, it needs to fit into your theme of the case. I like the theme, boiled alive, tarred and feathered. I think the jury understands that. Maybe it's boiled alive as a lobster and picked and eaten. I also like the reference that the defense had to, these were Saturday morning cartoons. How harmful are Saturday morning cartoons? So I think you can build on those themes. I think the main thing I can say this evening is that I've judged the state finals of the My Law program twice in the courtroom of the Maryland Supreme Court. And you have a good foundation in what you did tonight. Everything to build up from here is performance. In the state finals, the opening statements will be memorized. The closing statements will be memorized. Much of the direct and cross will not be referencing notes as they do it. It will be memorized. It's very similar to a high school drama production. I think both teams here will move on to regionals. Is that correct, Mr. Melhorn? Congratulations to you both. You will see some very strong teams from Anne Arundel County and Howard County. Presumably one of the teams is a perennial quarterfinalist or finalist at the state level. So you have a very challenging experience coming up before you. And I think it all depends upon performance. You have excellent witnesses. I've told this group before. One year I judged the state finals, and both teams did very well. In fact, our scoring of the teams was equal. But one team had witnesses, and they won the state championship based on their witness scores. So kudos to your witnesses. You did a wonderful job this evening. We will announce the scoring. The prosecution team, we gave 121 points. The defense team, we gave 108. So even though on the merits, according to Judge Titus, the prosecution lost, in this case, the prosecution won. Maryland is part of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they have a nice tradition in Richmond, Virginia, in the Fourth Circuit, that at the end of a trial, the judges come down and shake hands with the lawyers. And so tonight, we'd like to come down and greet all of you, witnesses as well. Congratulations, job well done, and we'll have Mr. Melhorn come up to do presentation of medals.
Before we come down, can I just make one last comment to everybody? And that is, as you move on to other finals in different counties, I have a matter of personal pride for Carroll County, and that is you have 2 circuit court judges in the form of Judge DiLeonardo and me judging the competition. And I want to make sure that Judge Getty gets the props that he is due. He's not just a Carroll County guy. He is a judge from Carroll County who is a longtime serving politician in our county. Before he was appointed to the highest court in our state that just was renamed, it was previously called the Court of Appeals. It's now the Maryland Supreme Court. And not only was he on the Maryland Supreme Court, he was the chief judge of that court. So he was the chief judge of all judges of the entire state, and he's from Carroll County. So it's a moment of personal pride here as well. So hope you get as good a showing in other counties as you go forward. But let's come down and congratulate everybody.
Congratulations.